there.
Hi, it's Helen Oakwater, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here with the wonderful Robert Dilts, one of the developers of NLP, author of countless books. I only brought one of the ones that I have, coach, mentor to Google, Apple, the whole caboodle. If there is a guru and god of NLP, this is the man. This is the man. So Robert has agreed to come and talk about logical levels, which he created on the, you can explain, Gregory Bateson.
Okay.
We're going to keep it less than 15 minutes and look at logical levels, and then what does trauma do to logical levels?
So let's first, if we just start with the levels, and Helen has made an artistic drawing.
Rubbish drawing. Yeah, Beyond Identity at the top is in Robert's hands. The rest of the rubbish writing is mine.
But this is kind of gives an overview of this notion of different levels, as Helen was saying, that it's really sort of inspired by the work of Gregory Bateson, who was an anthropologist, but also one of the major founders of modern systems theory. And he had a concept and different levels of learning.
Different levels of change, different levels of learning.
And these levels, he called it learning 1 and 2 and 3, which was kind of vague. It was kind of difficult to track. So what I was doing is saying, well, what does he mean by learning 1, learning 2? So basically what he was saying is that, okay, we know that we sort of concretely live in an environment. So, here we are in this room, with these constraints, with the sound that's here, and then all the activities that happen in our environment. Mm-hmm. And so we say that relates to, well, where and when. It's the most concrete part of our experience, right? The reason you can see this on the video is that we're in a concrete environment. But when we learn to do something in that environment or change our behavior in that environment. So our environment, we know, shapes what we do. And so we say that's the what, this behavior level. Yeah. Now, interesting thing is our behavior is not only shaped by our behavior. The reason that we're having this conversation is not simply reacting to this environment. It's because there's something inside of us that we want to share and comment on. And so that has to do with what we call the sort of levels of skills and capabilities. Another way to describe that would be, it's kind of the mental model, the mental map that we are working from. So, this is a mental map, logical levels. Yeah. And so we're bringing it through our behavior into this environment. Mm-hmm. So right now, we are acting and interacting, but how do we know what to do? This idea, how do we know, is because, okay, there's some kind of understanding, there's some kind of skill. And I would say the skills are not only cognitive, there's also an emotional and a somatic process and a somatic, in neuro-linguistic programming, we say there's a whole neuro part of that.
The whole body connection.
And that, of course, that is shaped partially by what happens in our ongoing environment, but also our memories of our past.
Yeah.
So this level starts to incorporate memory and what we've learned from our history. Now, we say the next level here is values and beliefs, it is part of our inner programming, you can say, but it's a different level than how we do something or, what we've learned. It's a level of motivation. Yeah. We say it's about why. And
what's important
and what's important to us. And what we believe, this is the interesting thing, if something happens in my environment here, what do I believe that's going to lead to? What do I believe that's coming from? What do I believe it means? And this is very different than having some kind of an understanding, a cognitive understanding. It's really, there's a lot of, it's more than just thinking. There's emotion with it. Mm-hmm. There is a whole sense of, it's a whole feeling level, and literally is related to a different part of the brain than our sort of higher understanding. Mm-hmm. And so we would say this, and we say values and beliefs because it's all about what's important to us. Our beliefs relate to our values. I say, well, I believe this is going to be, I believe this is going to happen, and maybe that makes me feel unsafe, or I believe this is going to create that, and that's what I have a sense of, satisfaction or joy from that. So beliefs and values are really highly connected. And then there's this level of identity, which is who believes, right? Who knows? Who does? Who experiences? And that is actually something that's beyond our belief, right? That is sort of this, we say that's the deepest level, the sense of identity. Who I am, what am I about in this world? And then we often say that given the sense of identity, certainly our beliefs can shape our identity, but our identity also shapes our beliefs. If I believe I am a strong, healthy, resilient person, then I'm going to believe that I can get through certain things, I can transform things, I'm going to learn some things more easily than others, I'm going to do things that are differently than if I believe that on an identity level, I'm a victim, I'm helpless,
bad.
I'm bad. I don't deserve things. Yeah. So this sort of identity level is very key in shaping what our beliefs end up being, which beliefs we keep, which ones we form, etc. Now, we say there is a level beyond identity, and this is a very profound level, because this is this idea that we are also part of something bigger than ourselves. I mean, we know, okay, I am me, I am an independent person, but I'm part of a family. That's a very key place of, something bigger than me to which I belong. I can also be part of a community, a profession. I can be, some people have this very strong sense of being part of something beyond their own identity. It's, I'm part of a planet, I'm part of the human race, I'm part of, something much bigger. This is often the foundation of what people would call a spiritual experience. And by spiritual, we don't necessarily mean religion, although religions tend to be based on spiritual experiences. Religions tend to actually be more about belief systems. So now what happens is, of course, our reality is made up of all of those different levels. Yeah. So I'm in an environment, maybe something happens that triggers a belief of what I think might happen, that determines how I act or what I'm thinking. What we find is that by being able to sort of get that sense, each of these levels can be both a resource, right? I can get support from my environment. I can do things that bring me greater sense of resourcefulness, the way I use my body, the way I use my posture. There's many, many ways in which our behavior is either going to be a resource for us,
be useful,
or be a limitation.
Yeah.
So you can have limiting environments. You can have, limiting behaviors, what you would call addictions or phobias and things like this. But those are often going to be connected also to ways of thinking. So my way of thinking can either be resourceful, I can be creative, or it can be limiting.
Yeah.
I can hold myself back, I can keep myself down. Same with these beliefs. Why I do things. The idea of these levels, by the way, and I think maybe it's important to suggest here, is that each level in some ways is less concrete, right? My belief I can't see it, I can't touch it. It's not as concrete as my environment, but it actually has sort of more impact on my behavior than even my environment does. Yeah. And we know that because two people can be in exactly the same environment. It can be a very supportive environment, or it can be a very dangerous environment, and they react completely differently.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that maps across to my world of in traumatized children. Exactly. And the I am bad at that level.
Yeah.
What then falls out from that?
Yeah, because what happens is when, like we say, if I have an identity that I am bad, I am going to be much more prone to hold certain kinds of limiting beliefs. I mean, even the statement "I am bad" is already kind of a belief, but it's a belief that is reflecting. I mean, it's a verbal statement of something that you're experiencing inside that is not the belief, right? It's some sense of something fundamentally wrong inside.
Absolutely.
And then that forms these beliefs, and then these beliefs say, well, okay, so if I'm bad, I can't do this, I shouldn't do that, I am going to do this, I will, I'm going to be this way, in these situations throughout my life, and then that determines what we do and what feedback we get from the environment.
Absolutely. And I remember sitting in my first morning of NLP training and having this model presented. Mm-hmm. this very model and realizing that beliefs drive behavior.
Yeah.
And I just sat back and went,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's why this therapy worked, you know, and the impact of that on my kids. So in the last couple of minutes, can you just let us know how, and this is my metaphorical shrapnel for trauma. What happens when trauma impacts logical level? And you've got approximately 2 minutes to explain that, Robert.
Okay.
It's just, you know, just.
Well, obviously, trauma starts here, right? It's something happens in my environment to me, and
like my earring falling off.
Yes, and then that begins to shape. Okay, that makes an impact on how I look at the world. That makes an impact on what I believe. That will even make an impact all the way up here to, you know, who I am, and even what's my place in the world. This is the whole idea of neuro-linguistic programming. There, especially as a child, you're forming a lot of, let's use an analogy to a computer, you're forming a lot of your basic programming. And that programming, you know, the early programming, of course, determines it's going to influence what is possible to add to it, etc. So in this, you might even say it's kind of like what they call the operating system. And an identity especially relates to what you would call your operating system. So as a young child, you don't have many, you know, you're not born with beliefs. You're not born with a lot of capabilities. I mean, you have some inborn things, but most of this is being shaped, especially, they say, you know, the first 4 to 6 years of your life. That's developing a lot of this deepest level stuff that then it can become, it's a lot easier to sort of, let's say, this is what when Basin called learning 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Learning 1, okay, I can kind of adapt I can adapt within the box, right? But there's a box there. Yeah. So to try to get out of that box, that's where beliefs come in, right? The belief creates the box. And so what we'd say is that very often you're going to have these belief and identity forming experiences. And like I say, it's a little bit like that's writing the operating system. Now, all the other software, okay, I can learn to add and subtract and speak a language, etc. But the deeper stuff, which determines how I feel that I am and what's meaningful, what's important, what I should do, that's all very much already in place.
And I remember you saying on Master Coach, this is where the magic happens.
That's where the magic
because
happens.
That's where the transformation happens. Yeah. And I think of it as if you change here, and it's like water, it will just whoosh down, and it transforms everything else.
It does.
So if you can change and help children of yourself, everyone change at an identity level and change belief, then the skills and behaviors will fall out from it.
And if you don't, the metaphor I use, like trying to change in the skills and behaviors, would be like trying to save the Titanic by rearranging the chairs on the deck, right? It's the wrong level of change, right? I can rearrange the chairs all I want. It's not going to change the direction. Absolutely. So this is about the direction.
This is where the direction is. Okay, we are going to pause here for a minute and come back with some other tools relating to this. Thanks.
We have to do still end.
Thank you.
End.